reports Iranian-linked hackers threatened to release emails stolen from Trump associates. An Iran-linked cyber-attack group that hacked President Trump's 2024 campaign is threatening to release another trove of emails it has stolen from his associates, including White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles and Roger Stone. Reuters first reported the threat on Monday that the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency on X called a calculated smear campaign. Now, obviously, I don't want foreign nations hacking people. However much I don't like Trump or his associates or want to see what's in those emails, maybe, I don't want that on principle. You shouldn't. Don't hack us. Iran. Hey, Iran, stop it. Okay, that should have figured it out. I think they'll listen. But now, how do I say this? But if it would, but if they were released, I would love for the contents to be really wacky. I would love for Susie Wiles to just constantly be emailing people how smelly Trump is. Like, just I know. And he came in the room, he's like, get me another Diet Coke. And then I took a whiff, and it smelled like, do you know when there's a really bad pipe burst? But picture like the pipe bursts over a dumpster fire. And what was in the dumpster was a poop depository. It was like that. I know. Oh, and he has new fragrance. He has a new fragrance. What is his fragrance going to be? He doesn't know anything about scent. Have you smelled him? I would love, sincerely, Susie Wiles, thank you for your attention to the matter. I would love for those to be, important stuff too. I correct it. I would love the important stuff first. The sinky stuff second. And it came 3 days after Trump announced he was halting plans to potentially ease sanctions on Iran. Hackers who gave themselves the pseudonym Robert told Reuters... What? Wait, you're a hacking group and you give yourself the pseudonym Robert? I'm not a hacker and I don't think you should illegally hack. Like, most of the time, obviously. I mean, maybe you could think of a situation where it's moral because you're, like, hacking Hitler. Let me just say, if Hitler were alive, I think we should hack him. Hack away. But in general, illegal hacking, bad. And if I were to do it, I would think of the coolest name ever. Truth Flame. Not that, necessarily, but, like, something like it. But theirs is Robert, which is my dad's first name. You don't think. Robert. Mr. President, sir, Mr. President, we need to bring you to the Situation Room. What's going on? We have to tell you about something. Our emails have been hacked. By who? Robert. An Iranian hacking group, Robert, told Reuters in online conversations on Sunday and Monday that they had around 100 gigabytes of emails involving Wiles, Stone, Trump lawyer Lindsay Halligan, and adult film actress Stormy Daniels, and others. They spoke of potentially selling the emails. All right, let's make a deal. Robert, because you shouldn't have hacked that, don't release most of them. Unless there's something really good. Release the ones with Stormy Daniels. I think that can be our exchange. Why are they emailing Stormy Daniels? They spoke of selling the emails just part of alleged indictment last September against 3 Iranians in the 2024 Trump cyberattack case that Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps oversaw the Robert hacking drive. And, of course, they're saying foreign adversary, all that, threatening to illegally exploit purportedly stolen. Yes, bad stuff, of course, obviously. But, Stormy Daniels. What do we have with Stormy? Is this from a long time ago? Was there even... When was their affair? Yeah, that was... I would love to see emails they exchanged. Dear Stormy. I left my bronzer in the hotel room. Can you please return it to me? DJT. MAGA. He was actually, fun fact, already using MAGA back then. On Iran, though, more seriously, this clip of Chris Coons, who is a Democratic senator, really upset Trump. Let's listen.
I'll just...
Wait. Sorry, please do click the subscribe button if you appreciate the show.
I'll just note that President Trump, by press accounts, is now moving towards negotiation and offering Iran a deal that looks somewhat similar to the Iran deal that was offered by Obama. Tens of billions of dollars of incentives and reduced sanctions in exchange for abandoning their nuclear program.
Yeah, so something we've been covering is that Trump ripping up the JCPOA. Do you think that Trump, the Trump we know, thoughtfully combed through the details of the Iran nuclear agreement and realized its flaws and withdrew the United States with a heavy heart and a focused soul? Or do you think he knew Obama did it and it was a big accomplishment and so he wanted to rip it up? Probably the second one would be my guess. So because of that impulsive decision, he then set off a series of dominoes. We were preventing Iran in a diplomatic way from attaining nuclear weapons, which is good. The Iranian regime is bad. But we were doing it in a much more peaceful way. Trump ripped it up and knocked over that domino, and then it got us to where we are today, where they are. Even after Trump's obliteration, they're pursuing nuclear weapons, enriching uranium, etc. And in response to this, Trump said, tell phony Democrat Senator Chris Coons that I'm not offering Iran anything, unlike Obama, who paid them billions under the stupid road to a nuclear weapon, JCPOA, which would now be expired. Nor am I even talking to them since we totally obliterated their nuclear facilities. And he didn't like that it was being suggested that he was taking after Obama, but the reporting was that indeed he was having the same realization that anyone would, which is that to get Iran to voluntarily agree to not develop nuclear weapons, you would have to give them something. So releasing sanctions is one of the tools you have in that toolbox. Then Nick Schifrin, moving just while we're on the subject of foreign policy, from Iran to Russia, posted, breaking White House confirms it has halted weapons that Ukraine was scheduled to receive. And it goes through the specifics there. And Kelly47 tells me, quote, this decision was made to put America's interests first following a DoD review of our nation's military support and assistance to other countries across the globe. The strength of the United States Armed Forces remains unquestioned. Just ask Iran. So in a moment like this, where we're seeing Russia's economy on the brink of a recession, at least the Kremlin indicated, and we're finally seeing that despite the artificial strength of their economy because of the wartime efforts, that what's underlying that is really troublesome and Putin's panicking over it. This would be the time when you would lean in more if you were rational. Because now you all of a sudden have more leverage. Putin's going to have more unrest at home, more discontent, I should say, at home, because of the harms, much of it because of his decision to invade Ukraine, economically that are coming and that are already being realized. And Ukraine is willing and able to continue defending themselves. So why not lean in more? They're running the opposite direction. The New York Times had a piece. Lack of new U.S. sanctions allows restricted goods and funds into Russia. President Trump has issued no new restrictions on Russia this year, in effect allowing Moscow to acquire the money and materials it needs in its conflict with Ukraine. As much is going on, we have to continue pressing on this because Trump so boldly tried to identify himself as someone who could, through his genius, get peace. And right now, by doing this, by emboldening Russia, he's pushing us further away from peace. One other thing relating to Trump's dealings with other countries, this is now on the trade front. Trump made this announcement. It's my great honor to announce that I have just made a trade deal with the Socialist Republic of Vietnam after speaking with Tu Lam, the highly respected General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam. It would be a great deal of cooperation between our two countries. The terms are that Vietnam will pay the United States a 20% tariff, so U.S. companies will pay that. He always words it dishonestly, on any and all goods sent into our territory, and a 40% tariff on any transshipping. They're making the ships trans. In return, Vietnam will do something that they have never done before. Give the United States of America total access to their markets for trade. In other words, they will open their market to the United States, meaning that we will be able to sell our product into Vietnam at zero tariff. etc. So it really does look like this is the best that we're going to see. And it's not that great. So of all the stuff Trump's doing, we were going to have 90 deals in 9 days. Now we had a deal with the UK that was unremarkable. China, Trump keeps saying we have a deal with, but it's sort of like, is the deal with us in the room now situation. Hasn't actually presented it to anyone, but just keeps touting it. And there is not a deal, is my assertion. And then here with Vietnam, all of the economic chaos that was created by Trump's tariffs and all of his promises of just trust me and the long-term impact of pushing away investments and economic cooperation with the United States, which, remember, we already saw that the big thing Trump cares about, which is the trade deficit, increased. It increased last month, in part because of that alienation of other countries then not wanting to do as much business. But all that to get deals like this. Vietnam that accounts for like 1.5% of our exports, a tiny little sliver. And of that, they had an average tariff on us before of like 9% on products going to Vietnam. And now that's going to go down to 0, I guess, if this is actually a real deal. Who knows? Which will essentially make close to 0 impact on our economy, especially when you compare it to the impact of all of the harms Trump has brought. And still, so all that, and still, we are the ones who are going to have to pay on the imports from Vietnam 20%. And that's staying, he's saying, permanently. That's the art of the deal. Share your thoughts in the comments.